Sophie Norris from Bentley Motors, talking very much about the early careers programs that are available. We're also joined by my COO, the COO of Pathway Group, Steve Crawley, and also Sam Cunningham, the Vice President from the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing. So as we go through this morning's session, we'll be looking at a number of different topics. So as mentioned, Sophie is going to be very much focusing on those early careers within Bentley Motors, that iconic British sort of motor industry, really taking us through there. And from what I understand from a conversation with her, really giving us some insightful facts and telling us things that probably we didn't realise with Bentley Motors. Steve then will be talking to us about unleashing lean manufacturing potential. So Steve's background is very much from the manufacturing industry and the training sector. He's going to be giving us lots of insights into lean manufacturing itself, how employers have embraced lean manufacturing and those applications within their organisation. Sam is going to be talking to us about unlocking the world of NDT. Now, before I wasn't aware of what NDT was. It was only through conversations and research. It's that non-destructive testing. It really is one of them paramount things out there that we're not really readily have that awareness for, really. But before we go too much into some of those areas, what I do want to do is just take a few minutes to talk a bit more about Pathway Group and what we are as an organisation and what we actually go out there and do. So as an organisation, we are Pathway Group. We've been operating for over 23 years. Our mottos are a matter of upskilling and reskilling. You know, we're there to support from a grassroots level, supporting businesses to attract and retain and grow their people along with their businesses. But we also do that for individuals. Obviously, for businesses to flourish and prosper, they need individuals, and it's those that we actually work with within those communities to provide those skills that the industries need and connecting them with those job opportunities as well. We're an organisation that strives for creating jobs, which is great, creating and driving growth as well. From research that we've conducted, 79% of employers are experiencing these challenges to find those appropriate skilled people for those positions. It means we have that skills development requirement, and we're here to bridge that gap, working with individuals to give them the skills and connecting them with employers. It is connecting the dots out in that real world. We leverage on UK government funded programs such as skills boot camps, which is what we're going to be talking a bit about today, really breathing new life into those businesses and also those regions across the UK. Currently, skills boot camps are there and available for many individuals. It's a new type of program, a new breed of programs, really. They are there for those rapid, those high impact programs for developing and upskilling individuals. And it gives an opportunity to connect businesses with that qualified talent. Areas that the government are focusing on at the moment are things like construction, logistics, engineering, green skills, digital skills as well. Some of those areas that we are focusing, and we will feature in webinars in the coming weeks as well. Particularly for myself and also the organisation, it's about careers and not courses. For us, it's connecting people with employers and those career-led opportunities so they can make a difference in their lives, connecting them to jobs so they can then progress through to develop that better job and ultimately gaining that career. We as an organisation are very well sort of recognised within sort of the government departments such as the Department for Education, Department for Work and Pensions. We operate across a number of regional areas such as the West Midlands Combined Authority and the Derbyshire Nottingham network as well. We're originally founded in the West Midlands, but we have broad sort of connections across the majority of England, where we look to utilise the skills and those opportunities in a blended way to use those public monies to give those opportunities to individuals and also organisations. We're an accredited partner for many. we work in line with the likes of the Matrix standard, with ISO accreditations, and also invested in people where they're recognised we're more than just a training organisation. We have that high quality and effective quality management systems, and we have a culture where our team, the people that we interact with, feel responsible, trusted, and they're accountable for the decision making opportunities that they have. For us at Pathway, we are social mobility first. So that means we put the individuals first. We do look at opportunities of a job, a better job, a career, helping people on their ladder within their career opportunities. We're committed to fostering those inclusive environments where everyone can succeed. Goes without saying, if we can't support somebody, we will look at those opportunities where we can support them and give them the necessary advice and support that's needed. Our goal is to ensure that everybody, regardless of their starting point, has that fair chance to rise and move in within companies' careers and opportunities. And as a result of all this, we are a trusted partner for many organisations. Some of these are sort of household name organisations. Some of them you will hear from today. Some of them you'll recognise straight away. But we work with all these organisations on different levels, and it is a matter of connecting organisations and individuals together. Now, that's enough about me talking about Pathway Group for the moment. Just to come back around again, today's sort of topics and conversations, we are going to be focusing on in the next session where we're talking with Sophie Norris, the early careers manager from Bentley. It's all about those early careers at Bentley, those opportunities that's available. So without further ado, if I can bring Sophie onto stage. And I'm just going to tell you a few things about Sophie, just as an introduction while she gets herself set up. So Sophie, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So Sophie, you oversee all the apprenticeships, the graduate and the placement programs, as well as the outreach and attraction for Bentley Motors. You'll be sharing more about the opportunities available with this. I mean, really, when I think of Bentley, it's that iconic brand that is out there, really, which, as you've sort of alluded to already, that we may not be aware of. So I'm really interested to find out more. So Sophie, over to yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, and hopefully everyone can see my slides. And really a big thanks for the invite today. So I have the pleasure of looking after all of our early careers programs at Bentley Motors. So that involves all of our apprenticeship programs, our graduate schemes, our placement opportunities as well. So we just wanted to really share those a bit of insight in terms of how we are developing those future skills that the industry needs, as Martin alluded to in his introduction. But a bit about us as a brand ourselves, really. So in case you haven't heard of us, so Bentley Motors is a 103-year-old business now. So we have a long, proud history of being an extraordinary British brand, but we're also looking to our next 100 years and what that looks like. And we're in a really transformative phase of us as an organisation. So we are transitioning to a fully electric product range. We are also taking sustainability and what that means in terms of every aspect of our business incredibly seriously. So it's a really exciting time to join us as an organisation as well as an industry, and those future skills that Martin alluded to are really kind of at the forefront in terms of enabling that transformation. So our models, we have an incredible model range at the moment. So all of these are designed, engineered, manufactured at our home in Crewe. So we are a single site location based in Cheshire. So everything to do with a Bentley, from that original design concept through to engineering, manufacturing, sales and marketing, quality. Everybody is on one site. So about 4,000 colleagues producing this amazing product range. So we're really proud of the products that we have at the moment, but always driving innovation, making sure that we can improve these. And our early careers colleagues and the future skills that involves are really, really intrinsic to that as well. And really, in terms of how we select people to join us on that journey, is really a values-based recruitment process. So we look for a few things in terms of candidates, and this isn't only for early careers colleagues joining the organisation, but these are the values that we recruit against for any hire, with albeit whatever role you're joining. So we are a very fast-paced organisation. We like to say that we remove barriers, we want to drive innovation, but also do that with a real kind of collective IQ and a diverse thought set. So we welcome anyone who can challenge us, give us new ideas, but also live our values as well. So authenticity is really important to us. So making sure that we appreciate and understand our heritage, but drive that forward into the next 100 years. The integrity of our colleagues and our products is really important to us as well. Collaboration is absolutely key. So as I said, we are a single site location. So we always say that all of the decisions that Bentley are made in the Costa coffee queue, it's the hub of the site really, but having that network across the organisation is absolutely key to our success really. And sustainability, as I've already mentioned. So we do have a really comprehensive sustainability strategy that is not only looking at the electrification of our product range, but everything at Bentley. So we have an award-winning carbon neutral campus. We have our own Bentley bees, which produce our own honey, which people are often surprised at. I think it's actually called the Honey Excellence Centre in true Bentley fashion, where our beehives are placed. And innovation. So innovating, pushing the boundaries for absolutely everything that we do, whether that is in our product range or how we become more sustainable and lead that luxury mobility sector. And I've touched on it as well, but in terms of a diversity perspective, this is something that we are really passionate about, and our diversity journey has really taken flight over the last, I'd say, 5 to 6 years. We have the logos there of our colleague-led networks who are real kind of trusted friends. So they are colleague networks created by colleagues, made up of colleagues who we work with as a HR team and as an organisation to ensure that we're really driving diversity and embracing diversity of thinking through all of our strategic directives and initiatives really. And in terms of our brand, we always use this slide just to remind people that we are part of the VW group. So we work collaboratively with a lot of different brands across VW. Some people will be surprised at some of the logos on there. So 12 brands in total. We work across the globe as part of our global VW group and partners. And this is something that our trainees get involved in all of the time as well. We actually had some of our graduates over in Lamborghini last year on placement. We've welcomed apprentices over from Porsche to share expertise and skill sets in some areas as well. So that collaboration is really on a global scale. And in terms of what that looks like at Bentley in terms of a career, we are really passionate to ensure that our early careers programs are robust enough and develop people so that they can really enter the industry really well suited and really equipped for a future career with us. So we do a lot around our growth and opportunities for our colleagues. We make sure that whatever program they join us on, they can have hands-on experience of our product. We have personal development planning sessions, but also really harness the voice of our trainees and all of our employees to make sure we are gathering regular feedback from them, taking that on board, and also making sure that we are improving and continuously driving innovation in our programs as well. And in terms of those programs, so the graduate program is the first one that I just wanted to walk you through. So this is a 2-year graduate entry program at Bentley. So we open up vacancies once a year, each October. It's a 2-year program. And as part of that, you would join in the home department, but also go on placements across the organisation to really develop your network, your understanding of Bentley as a brand, and also to kind of harness your curiosity really in terms of across the organisation to maximise what you can learn from that 2-year journey. We do aim to offer a permanent end role to all of our graduates as well. So not guaranteed, but providing that performance is strong. Obviously, we are investing in these future skill sets for a reason, and we want people to maintain with us as post-programme as well. We also take on a number of industrial placement students at Bentley as well. So this year we're welcoming our biggest ever cohort, 100 placement students in total. These are across all of the various different functions across Bentley. So manufacturing, engineering, sales and marketing, finance, HR. We bring a real broad range of future skills into the organisation through this placement programme. And often it's an entry level into the graduate programme as well. So this is very much intended for undergraduates or graduates who have already graduated, but in the future skill sets that we are looking for. So whether that is electrification or project management, to really come in for a year, get stuck in on a project, and challenge us as well, bring some new ideas to the table. And finally, onto our apprenticeships as well. So we hire around 40 apprentices each year at Bentley across various different skill sets. So it could be a 2 to 4 year programme, level 2 to level 6. So that is the equivalent of a GCSE qualification right the way through to a degree apprenticeship as well. And again, these are a real broad range of functions that our apprentices go into. So everything from electrical engineering, that we could bring in a chartered manager through our apprenticeship programme. In our HR team, we have apprentices in manufacturing as well. So I know we'll be hearing shortly about lean manufacturing ways of working. We do really build that skill set through our apprenticeship programme. And these are really opportunities are available to anybody, so not just a school or college leaver, but those for looking at a change of career as well. And this just gives you a feel for the different functions that we hired as part of our latest recruitment campaign. So in 2024, these are the areas that we had trainees joining, pretty much every area of the business. We have 164 trainees joining later this year in total. So it'll be a real injection of energy, an injection of future skills, and curiosity and new ideas. So it's always a really nice time of year when everyone joins us. And just touching on our recruitment process. So we are really proud of our recruitment process. It's a really human, kind of centred experience for our candidates. It's a CV and a cover letter via the careers website, which we do have a link for at the end of the presentation. We shortlist then based on the strength of that application, and then candidates are invited to an online assessment over Teams. So an interview with two colleagues at Bentley who will be your that person's managers, and then it's straight to offer. So no psychometric testing. We'd like to think that it's a really inclusive recruitment experience as well. And we always get asked this question in terms of what makes a strong application. And really we've put these points on just to echo that it's not just academic skills that we are looking for at Bentley to drive those future skills areas to meet the challenges of the industry. We really need people, no matter their background, who are really hungry to continuously learn. So whether that's a career changer or an entry level straight from school, we want somebody to ask us the questions that we don't know the answers to. Also be proactive in creating and contributing to our inclusive culture as well. So that's really important to us. Someone that takes ownership of decisions, but is also open-minded and inquisitive as well. And a bit of tenacity and resilience always goes a long way in the automotive industry too. And in terms of what makes a strong application, these are our top tips really. So, and this is relevant for early careers or any other role at Bentley, and arguably anyone applying for jobs elsewhere as well. So always think outside the box in terms of what you can offer to that position. As I said, academic grades are important for some roles if there's a particular technical expertise that we require, but ultimately we're looking for somebody with a bit of a USP, personality coming through in terms of their application, and tenacity and drive as well. Strong cover letter. So obviously our application process is only a CV and a cover letter, so absolutely make sure to tailor that to the role that you are looking for, and be realistic but find your forte. So no fibs on the CV, because it will be printed out probably in front of that hiring manager as part of the interview. And hopefully, if technology allows, we've got a short video just about Bentley coming up next.
Do you want to make a difference in a sustainable, carbon neutral world? Harnessing the power of green energy, innovating next generation technologies, and visualizing what lies ahead. Do you want to make a difference by anticipating change on the horizon and brave new opportunities to embrace, facing challenges with endeavour in a culture that celebrates individuality? Do you want to make a difference, building on a century of motoring heritage to craft the future of global luxury, becoming the leader in advanced mobility and driving the next 100 years of our journey? Be the difference. Make it at Bentley Motors.
So apologies about the buffering, but hopefully that gave you a bit of an insight in terms of early careers opportunities at Bentley. Everything is on our careers website in terms of all of the opportunities available, as well as BAU recruitment as well. So definitely check us out on early careers and the careers website. All of our vacancies for our graduate and placement opportunities for 2025 go live in October of this year, so in a few months' time. And apprenticeship vacancies will go live in February of 2025 for a September 2025 start. So hopefully that's been a bit of an insight into Bentley. And back to Martin.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sophie, for that insightful. And obviously, yeah, I wasn't aware that Bentley Motors also produce honey. I did go and sort of read an article midway through as well, and it's quite interesting to understand the purpose behind it as well. And I would encourage others to take a look into it. I think you've hit the nail on the head, in many ways there. And I think this is where those sort of connecting the dots, and those sort of relationships sort of come through, really. All the, where you think of Bentley, people will think straight away, oh, it's automotive, it's potentially manufacturing, but actually there's all these different functions behind it as well. And I'm sure some people on today that are thinking about, that have been drawn in with Bentley, don't just think, oh, it's all hands-on, oil under the fingernails, this, that, and the other type of work. It really isn't. There's so many other opportunities and avenues that can be explored there. And sometimes it's, some people that are looking for that sort of career change, that new opportunity that it can quite easily be for. So I know you've got to shoot off for 11 o'clock, but if anybody does have any questions, please do feel free to put them through in the chat. There is a Q&A section in there, but we should hopefully have some time where we can come back at the end. And if we don't get answered today, we will come back on email for anybody as well. So Sophie, thank you very much for that insight into Bentley Motors and also the early career opportunities available to individuals as well. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay. So now I would like to move on through the session and introduce now my COO, Stephen Crawley. Now, Stephen, I've worked with probably the last sort of 6 months. I really get to know him and sort of his sort of extensive experience, really, not just with the education training sector, but also the industry of manufacturing as well. So, Steve has previously worked in manufacturing for a number of years. Making that sort of transition over into the education training industry and really sort of connecting the dots for employers and also training organisations about upskilling, about improving the efficiency within the organisation as well. Now, Steve, I'll give you a couple of moments just to sort out from the technical side in terms of slides and things like that. But so, what we're going to be talking about is, lean manufacturing is going to be that key part. The role that lean manufacturing plays within today's manufacturing organisations, and really how we're supporting it as well in some of those case studies. So fantastic, Steve. Over to yourself, but you are still muted at the moment, anyway.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's nice to meet you and thank you for joining us today. I think in the background it looks like I'm in the kitchen at home, but I'm actually in the office at work. So It's glad to see everybody. And thank you for joining us for Unleashing Lean Manufacturing Potential. I've had an introduction from Martin in terms of being the Chief Operating Officer at Pathways, and I joined the business earlier in the year in January and started actually working here in August. And prior to that, I'd been in the sector up till 1996, and before then I spent most of my early career in manufacturing, working in organisations such as Thorn EMI and Jaguar Cars. What we're looking to talk about today is the ongoing challenges that's facing the manufacturing sector, particularly looking at the skills gap, and that's a growing concern from some of the reports that we've read recently. So really, I was going to kick off with a bit of a question. I'm not asking for any answers on this, but in your organisation, do you look at waste control and how you can reduce waste, and do you know what the percentages of waste is? In a lot of organisations, it's a lot more than people actually think is really happening, and it can be a real drain on business and resources. One of the ways to look at that and to get around it is looking at how you measure your quality cost model. And on a little diagram here, right, if you look at the left-hand side where it's current, you'll have some organisations that will spend some money on prevention to make sure that they've got the right staff in place with the right tools and the training and the processes and procedures in place. But talent is your biggest asset and our biggest asset in any organisation. So getting people in place as being the biggest asset needs to make sure that you're giving them everything, all the tools they need to get it right first time. Very often costs are then spent on appraisal costs, where people are checking and measuring and looking at products, whether that's visual inspections or actually looking at particular strengths of materials, etc. Sam will talk about this a bit later in terms of NDT. But very often, if things go wrong, we resort to 100% inspection, checking every product, and obviously that's really costly, and it means it's a real time on resources and draining costs. The other things that we have in terms of failures can be internal failures when you're in your organisation. If you find that you're not achieving productivity, it might be that your production line stopped and you've got downtime. It could be that you're in a situation where products are not to the right specification, or it could be that parts are being made late. And this can result in customer complaints, where customers might be complaining because the parts are not there. It might be that you've ordered furniture that's not turned up on time. It could be components not on time. And as soon as we start to get external failures such as complaints, customer returns, or even more important, warranty claims where you have to pay money back, those costs can really be significant. And in most businesses, if it's not measured, you're not really doing anything about it. So if you have a look at the slide on the right-hand side, what a lot of businesses do is they look at the talent that they've got in the business and start to invest money in prevention costs. So they look to introduce staff training, making sure that the staff have got the right tools, we've got the right processes and procedures in place. People are motivated, they're working together, and probably more importantly, that their staff have a voice to make a change. Very often, the biggest asset to the business are the people that can say, well, if we did this, this, and this would be the improvement. And not all changes need to be massive. Small changes and lots of more small changes can make a huge improvement. What that does, it gives you a real foundation to work on, and that can be through upskilling existing staff, using programs that are fully funded, such as AB funding. I won't use too much jargon, but there's a lot of funding from the government in terms of upskilling your existing staff through programs such as AB and apprenticeships, and then we've also got boot camps. So when we look to use our funding, we'd like to try and support employers to introduce prevention and make it improve by investing in the staff. Once the staff are invested in, we can look at appraisals and reduce appraisal costs. Everybody's responsible for quality, so it shouldn't be a different area of the business checking everything. We should all be checking everything all of the time, even if that's paperwork, if you're in a funding environment, or if you're in a process environment, or checking the food if you're making products. This reduces the internal failure, so you find that you have production targets achieved, less scrap, less downtime, and by improving your internal failures, you get more efficiency and better productivity from your team. And if this in turn then improves customer satisfaction, reduces external failures, we end up then with potential savings. And very often those savings can be 2 to 3 times more than the annual profits. So it's a really significant way of just spending a bit of thinking time about what we can do to improve in our organisations. And this could be in any organisation. So failure to meet production targets is important everywhere. And a lot of people think lean is just about manufacturing. But if you have a look at some of the sectors that people can be in, if you take sort of the NHS, there's a real problem at the moment with waiting lists, and that's a failure really of having the resources and the staff and the productivity to meet the needs. It could be in logistics where we're not getting there on time, and you could include the train service in there where there's been lots of complaints about the way that the trains have been functioning, particularly over the last 3 years, and I guess lots of people claiming money back when they've got there late. It could be in the food sector where they can have issues and not meeting demand in terms of products. So try not to think about lean as just being in a particular sector. And I've got a few examples of how this works in NHS, local authorities, manufacturing and food that I'll go through in a few minutes. One example that I've got really in terms of quality control, some of the data shows that some organisations are still having problems with quality control. One of the first companies I worked with was a bakery, a small bakery in Derby, and they were producing French sticks for Sainsbury's. And I happened to be there on a day where there was a real big argument taking place, where the night shift were producing French sticks that were a lot bigger than the day shift French sticks. So Sainsbury's were getting all these French sticks coming in, and although it might sound a bit absurd, the French sticks were all different sizes, and it was because there was a problem in standardisation. The chap was on the night shift was saying his recipe and his instructions but needed to be followed. The chap on the day shift was saying his recipes and his instructions needed to be followed. And because they were falling out and there were two teams together, both on the night and day shifts, it nearly ended up in fisticuffs, but it also meant that they nearly lost a really valuable contract. So it really, really shows the importance of making sure that you're on top of your quality control. In terms of moving forward and growing adoption of lean manufacturing techniques, the latest data is showing that 65% of companies have embraced lean, and you might be one of those organisations, but there's another 35% that aren't using it. And I wanted to just give you a brief example. My first example of lean was in a company called Parkinson Cowan that made gas cookers. They had 8 production lines that were producing cookers. We had a really archaic system where everything was really, really slow. We weren't getting information. We had a new quality manager came in. We put in LED lights over each of the production lines, and we're measuring productivity by the hour. And what we could see was what our right first time was. We wanted 100% right first time. And using data, we could see where the slowest production was, where we're not hitting targets, and it also identified the 3 biggest defects. That gave us the data we need to use in our staff to step in and to bring about improvements, and that improved efficiency in terms of productivity. And we did the same thing in terms of reducing waste in our stores, which had lots of products that we weren't using. And by increasing revenue and reducing costs, it made a real efficiency improvement in the business. So it's really worthwhile looking at what you can do to improve things in your organisation. And by taking a step back, you can put in a programme that might be over 2 years that makes a significant difference to your organisation. What we're doing at the moment is to move forward and support organisations in this presentation, specifically with boot camps, but we'll come back later to our overall offer. And we've put together a team of growing and experienced lean professionals who are identified here. And these are people that have worked in Jaguar, Renault Chain, JCB and Toyota with over 80 years experience. Our chairman, a chap called Alan Hill, used to work at Michelin. And we've got a much wider team with employer engagement staff and recruitment staff. And there'll be a photograph of Claire Whittingham in a few minutes, who's our head of boot camps. But the team have got a lot of experience. And between the team, over the last few years, we've had a number of successes. I'm not going to go into lots of detail, but if I can flick through some of these, we work quite closely with Southern Water, that we're implementing Kaizen and continuous improvement techniques to improve quality, cost and delivery, and involved a number of their staff. We worked with the customer service team that didn't think that lean applied to them, but by working together, they were trying to get some of the tenants that they were working with to switch over to water meters. They were sending out correspondence that was just being totally ignored. So the team did some brainstorming and came up with an idea to produce a cube, which was a flat pack that flipped up into a cube when it went through the letterbox. And it meant then when people came home from work, as well as sort of picking up the pizza leaflets and the curry leaflets and all the other stuff that you get posted through your door every day, there was a cube on the floor that said, please contact Southern Water, we need to speak to you about water meters. And their success rate in terms of turning things around and getting people to go onto the water meters was really significant. It improved their sustainability program, and it was part of their annual accounts and their annual reports. We worked with another organisation called ZAR, where they'd got 26 Black Belt Six Sigma specialists who weren't working in teams. So we set up around 30 teams in the business with 300 staff over 2 years, learning business improvement techniques. The business itself made so many savings. They saved 1.4 million. It was a 98% export business in inkjet printers. But the reason they did it wasn't to save money, it was to actually align the staff and bring them together and to improve the morale of the whole workforce. And by using techniques like this and giving everybody a voice, it can make a massive difference to your business. And there's a final one that shows just even with small businesses, by making changes to what you're doing in terms of workplace organisation, sorting out storage systems, giving new visual management systems in place, you can make what might seem to be small savings to us looking at those two large ones, but 160k in a small SME was a significant saving. All of these areas revolved around people, working with people, using the biggest asset, as we've just talked about at Bentley, to measure, use techniques and processes to drive performance. And what I wanted to do was to sort of share the lean processes and principles with you. And after we switch over to Sam Cunningham, that's going to talk about how valuable it is in NDT, we'll come back and talk about our boot camp and what the boot camp offer is in detail. Thank you very much. So can I pass over now to Sam Cunningham, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you for your time there, Steve. Just before you shoot off there, we have had 2 questions come through. One is from Nikki asking, are you able to do this at an international level? Now, I know ourselves, we aren't sort of on that level ourselves, but I do believe the likes of the accreditation, so you mentioned about the likes of Six Sigma and things as you were going through, I do believe these are sort of an international and sort of internationally recognised practices as well. So there may be another conversation that we can sort of support with as well. Is there anything else that you'd have to say on sort of lean at an international level at all there, Steve? Sorry, Steve, just in terms of leaning on an international...
Just been put on the system. Can you hear me okay, Martin?
Yes, that's it. I can hear you fine now, mate. Yes, yes. So just in terms of...
There are actually, there's international standards that you can use, and there are some European standards, particularly for Lean and Black Belt Six Sigma. So one of the things we can do is have a discussion outside of here about how we might put the person involved in the right direction there. So leave that with me and we'll pick it up towards the end. But there's definitely something we can support with there in terms of referral.
And we've also had another question from Natalia about courses in quality control. Now, I know these are elements within the skills bootcamp, and it may be sort of a sufficient area, but again, we can look at sort of target on those. And then I know a couple of other questions have come in, but we will look to pick these up on the side, because I know we're sort of tight for time at the same time. So if I can now sort of introduce Sam. Sam is the Vice President of the British Institute of Non-Disruptive Technology. Sam is going to be talking to us about essentially NDT. Now, until we started sort of putting together this webinar, NDT wasn't something that I was quite familiar with. But now I've sort of done my research and got into it and had a couple of conversations with Sam, it's understanding just how imperative this is. So a bit about Sam then. So he's Vice President for the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing. He's also representing Lavender, which is a globally recognised provider of NDT, such as training and examinations and consultancy. For Sam himself, he's very passionate about creating that next generation of NDT professionals, reducing that skills gap with NDT, and he's going to go through some facts and figures, and you will see just what he's trying to achieve, or them as an organisation, what they're trying to achieve. But he does really have that extensive background in anything and everything that is NDT. And again, if you're anything like me a few weeks ago thinking, well, what is NDT? You're going to have some great examples. So Sam, over to yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, and thanks to you and Steve for inviting me on to this webinar to give a bit more exposure to NDT and the industry that surrounds it. And like you said, you've not heard of it until you got introduced to me, and that goes for a lot of organizations and individuals that should really know a little bit more about it, because it's a critical part of industries around the world, and making sure that the integrity of these parts are maintained and sustained over a long period of time. And without NDT, to put it bluntly, they'll just be big lumps of metal that are not worth very much until they've had that rubber stamp from NDT. So yeah, I was just going to talk about our industry and the challenges that we've faced over quite a long period of time, really, and that's around the skills gap. Because like you said, there's not that many people coming into NDT. You don't leave school asking to be an NDT inspector, whereas actually now that's what we want more than ever, because there's a massive demand for NDT inspectors in the UK, around the world, and we just can't find them. But hopefully my presentation will shed a bit more light on that and bring a bit more positivity to my intro of doom, let's say. I just called it. So yeah, just a little bit about Lavender International. So like Martin mentioned, we are a global provider of non-destructive testing, training and examination services. So what we do is we work around the world with organizations to train their members of staff in carrying out our NDT techniques. That I'll mention in a little bit about what these techniques are. But the reason why there is this training and examination process in place is because these techniques are not something that you can just pick up and crack on with, so to speak. There is an embedded theoretical and practical element, which is quite highly regarded. So once you've gained these qualifications, then as long as you've got experience in their methods, then you're allowed to go around the world and practice NDT, as long as you hold the certification in place. So I work for Lavender International as a technical sales manager, working with clients in the UK and around the world. But I'm also vice president of the British Institute of NDT. So the British Institute governs the NDT industry within the UK, and they offer their own certification scheme. They are a professionally recognised engineering institute. So we work with like the Royal Academy of Engineers, 3Ms, and I'm a key, for example, to make sure that industries are working in accordance with our standards that we dictate. And I'll come on to it in a little bit, but the British Institute of NDT, the members within it was quite high on the age demographic scale. So when I started going to NDT, I was literally had to be dragged along to some of the meetings because I didn't want to go. It wasn't something that as a younger person, not that I'm that young now, but as a younger person, it wasn't very attractive to anyone. So when I first went to some of these meetings, working groups and committees, I really wanted to change that demographic and that attractiveness to younger people to come into NDT. So that's what my little presentation focuses on, really, is the challenges within NDT and what we did to try and mitigate these issues. So first of all, I just want to give a bit of a brief intro into what NDT is, just so everyone on the call knows a little bit more about it. So obviously NDT in essence is the testing of materials to make sure that they're safe before and during they're in service. So if you think about an aerospace turbine blade or an aeroplane turbine blade within the engine, NDT's formed a critical part in making sure that the turbine blade has got the highest integrity that it can possibly have. You won't want to be in the air and making sure that and not aware of that part has been tested and someone's checked it off that the integrity is 100%. So any little defects in that blade could cause catastrophic consequences later on down the line. And it is, even though you might not have heard of it, it's quite a big industry. Earlier on in 2020, I think the estimate was around $5.6 billion around the world in products and services. And it's continuing to grow as well as demand increases, and like organizations like Sophie's, Bentley, their interest in quality assurance, and organizations like Rolls-Royce, EDF Energy, they have more and more every year an interest in safeguarding their assets and integrity of their parts. So just a couple of key NDT techniques that we use in industry to make sure that parts are safe. For example, magnetic particle testing, as you can see in the right top left-hand slide there. You can see that image there. That's what's known as MPI. We have dye penetrant testing, visual inspection, ultrasound, which you can see on the bottom left-hand corner. And anyone that's been pregnant, obviously you have an ultrasound scan to make sure that the baby's safe. Basically, that's exactly what we're doing, but on a metal component, to make sure that the component inside it, there is no defects or there is no cracks propagating to the surface. Similarly, if anyone's unfortunately broken their leg or their arm, they might have had a radiograph of their injury. So we can do exactly the same, but using it to inspect the inside of a metal component. And again, another technique that's widely used is something called eddy current, which uses electromagnetic properties to make sure that parts are safe. So hopefully that might have just blown your mind completely, but it might give you a little bit more of an insight into what NDT is. And these are the types of industries that we work in on a daily basis, making sure that parts are safe, whatever industry it is in. So obviously, one of the key areas is the aerospace and aviation industry. Like I mentioned, I think there's about 35,000 parts of that plane are inspected using NDT technologies. So you won't want to be on that plane if 34,999 are inspected safely. You want that every single part to be inspected safely, making sure that there's no defects in any of them parts. Similarly, with the maritime and shipbuilding, infrastructure, oil and gas industries, power generation, nuclear, all of these organizations are using NDT every single day to make sure that their assets and components are safe and able to be used within industry as well. So some key names on there that are using NDT. Obviously, you might have heard of a lot of them, hopefully, and they use NDT every single day. So I might have given you a bit more insight into the critical nature of our industry that we're working in. So what happened in 2016, there was a report that was done on the NDT industry within the UK, and it was published by the British Institute. And it found a multitude of different issues that we were going to face in industry over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And one of the critical parts that they found was that 60% of the NDT members were over the age of 50. And as you can see on that slide there, the big red, the deep red line is the UK industry, or the British Institute industry. And the average age was around 55. Compared to the rest of Europe, we were very top heavy, meaning that if we didn't do anything as an industry, that we were going to have a critical issue in 10, 15 years time, where all of these inspectors then start to retire. And I'd rather be on the beach with a couple of drinks rather than doing NDT still. So we do see this now. Obviously, that was in 2016, and a lot of these inspectors, especially with the impact of COVID, have moved on now to maybe part-time or to totally retiring out of the industry. So what we did, and as you can see there on the right-hand side, we needed to maintain this population. At the minute, in 2016, we estimated a newly qualifying rate of around 500 certs per year, whereas actually now, to maintain that population and the people coming out of the industry, we needed to maintain it at around 900 per year for new starters coming into the industry, to make sure that that population would be safeguarded and that sustainability of the industry would continue as well, without having to pull resources from other countries or other industries. We wanted to make sure it was all safeguarded within the UK. So what we did is we had a three-pronged approach really to safeguarding our industry. One key one was awareness. Like Martin hit the nail on the head when he'd not even heard of it. I don't know if anyone else on this call might have heard of it. I'd like to think that some might have, especially Steve Crawley, seeing as I worked with him for a couple of years. But we approached it from an early careers demographic, really, to start with. And we created our own apprenticeship scheme. So the British Institute of NDT came together, and we had industry buy-in from a lot of individuals, a lot of organisations. So some really big names, like I mentioned on the previous slides, like BAE Systems, Rolls-Royce, EDF, BP, Shell, all had a key interest in this employer group. So they came together and devised the Trailblazer Apprenticeship Group, and we created 3 NDT standards, apprenticeship standards from this group, which were slowly introduced in around 2017. And I'll come on to some key stats as to the success that we've had with our NDT apprenticeship programs. We also used to use the boot camps for NDT, really just to give individuals that might be unemployed a bit of a different scope to where their career could go. There's no academic levels of achievement that you need to get into NDT. It might all be set at an employer's requirement, but you could come off the street tomorrow and gain NDT qualifications. However, you need to gain work experience working with employers around the country to become a certified level 2. And it's not as simple as just coming off the street. There's a bit of a cost to it. But if you went on one of the boot camps, you'd gain an appreciation of NDT as well. Another area that we had an issue with was basically the BINDT having a bit of a reputation for being an older demographic. So what we did is we created an early careers branch to try and nurture younger individuals coming into the industry so that they felt like valued, and we could offer career advice and guidance so that they can go on to then maintain their status in the NDT industry, but also go on to achieve additional qualifications. So that was one key area that we focused on, was generating an awareness. So hopefully, even doing this presentation, we've done a little bit of that today. One other element, which is quite a bit of a barrier to entry, was the cost of training. Obviously, the NDT training sector, it's not cheap to put on these courses because there's a lot of consumables and industry professionals that we need to pay to make sure that they can deliver their expertise over to someone that might not have had that yet. So what we devised, obviously through the apprenticeship scheme, was access to the apprenticeship tax levy, but also access to other government funding. And that meant that younger people coming into the industry would have their qualifications paid for, obviously through their employer and the apprenticeship levy or government funding. And that would then help anyone coming into the industry quickly gain their qualifications required to maintain that population. But we also factored in, obviously, the boot camps, again, a really nice cost-effective way of helping increase that engagement with the NDT sector and getting individuals in to have that taster as to what it is like to work in NDT. We also offered an accelerated work experience program that we offer through Lavender International. And that was a bit of an issue around joining the NDT sector, is that you need to gain accelerated work experience. But how do you do that if you've got no job in the sector? because employers want people that have already got people with qualifications. So we generated an accelerated work experience program where people can come to Lavender International and gain 50% of their required time over a much shorter period. And some of our techniques require a year's worth of work experience to become certified as an NDT inspector, which, as you can appreciate, that's a lot, and it's a lot very time consuming and costly for an individual that wants to join. But we also have helped individuals get their certification a lot quicker through the accelerated work experience program. And then finally, the third problem that we wanted to do is to solve was the mentorship and succession planning internally within organisations. So like I mentioned, some of these big names, like even the MOD, the RAF, what they saw, they all use NDT. And what they saw is that rather than recruiting outside, they could use internal staff members to gain NDT qualifications. Obviously, they might have seen it, they might have had an appreciation of it internally, but without the qualifications, you can't do the job. It's as simple as that. So what they did and what we did as an industry was had a really big push on succession planning internally and having a bit of a mentorship program as well, so that individuals could, anyone that works in NDT is normally quite passionate about what they do. So they wanted these passionate individuals to go into their workplace and do taster days, do little workshops on what it is, just to raise that awareness again, but also take people under their wing and give them their qualifications, partly because there was such a shortage of inspectors around at the time. So obviously the bit of a current landscape, I'll need to zoom in here because my writing's too small. But 2016, obviously we had that aging workforce, and now we've managed to reduce that average age from 55 to 39 over an 8-year period, which really is a good success story for the industry. We've had over 150 NDT apprentices complete their program, with the majority doing 3 NDT techniques. So 150 times by 3 is an excellent output for the new certs that are coming to the industry. And over the next 2 years, we estimate that that'll go up to around 450 new certificates generated for industry, which doesn't meet that 900 cert renewal population, but it goes a long way to helping it via a scheme that didn't exist 8 years ago. So it's a really good way that we're looking at the industry now, and it's a lot brighter than what it was. However, there's still a massive shortage of inspectors. Not necessarily the skills gap that's a problem now, but more the sector as a whole is looking for NDT inspectors, or anyone coming into it. Like, there's a lot of jobs now around trainees and apprenticeships in NDT. So if anyone was interested, we're more than happy to try and help them find a job within NDT to maintain this population and to safeguard our industry. And I think that's it from me, Martin. So hopefully that provided a bit of an insight as to our industry and what we're doing to support the growing nature of it.
Fantastic, Sam. No, thank you very much for that. And as I say, from when I first heard of NDT, the awareness wasn't there, and I think that's given us everybody on the call today that great overview of how imperative NDT is. So if you think when you're on you're going abroad on your summer holidays, all this equipment technology has to be tried and tested. You think of the exciting opportunities as well that it may lead into. I know with the Bentley side, it was talking, that they're a network of 13 other car manufacturers and there's international travel. I think even there's the opportunities here of sort of going out and sort of experiencing and seeing the world, because that technology and innovation is all around us, really. So thank you very much. There have been a couple of questions that come through, Sam, and I think that you sort of answered them as you were sort of going through, really. So we've got one individual asking, how do you get onto an NDT course and how long does it take to complete? I think that there's many different options and opportunities for people to go through these programs. It's understanding maybe what their knowledge is beforehand, of whether it's apprenticeship can be that route, or if it's that going on doing sort of short courses and opportunities, but you did allude to 12 months of training in some cases to become an NDT inspector, which I think is ultimately those sort of routes for some people. Some about the metrology, sort of in terms of labs and things. Would this be sort of next steps after NDT processes? And again, I think this is where it gets more specialised and specific, but I have shared the Lavender website out to people, so please do sort of pick up and connect from there. Also, you'll be able to sort of search and connect with Sam on LinkedIn, no doubt, and I'm sure he'll give you the advice and support.
Any questions on NDT or how to get into it, just send me an email via that email there, or just drop me a message on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to help.
Fantastic. So you've got Sam's sort of contact details on there. Please do pick up and speak with Sam. There was also mention about, is it best to have internal, external? I think a lot of the time it's having that awareness internally, isn't it? And potentially if you could have that luxury of having somebody that is NDT qualified within your organisation, then you've got some of that dedication, ensuring you've got that that content testing and sort of challenge within the business as practice. But I know we're sort of running over here, so I do apologise to everybody. We will just sort of jump back on with Steve if we can. But thank you very much for your time there, Sam. Very worthwhile. We'll be speaking with you again very soon, I'm sure. Thank you. So if I can bring Steve back on for a couple of minutes. Steve, we now just want to talk a bit about sort of the skills bootcamp. So some of these individuals I have already experienced skills bootcamps. I'm getting a bit of a loop through at the moment.
Are you all right to share? Just sharing. Hello?
Yep, Steve, we can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me now? Hi, Martin. Thanks for that, Sam. Really helpful, and thank you, Sophie. Part of today is really looking at how we can work together, both with Lavender and with Bentley, to move forward. And some of the opportunities are significant. And Sam and I started to get together back in 2016. So we've got lots of opportunities to share our relationship to benefit our people. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in a little bit more detail, but not too long, is the Lean Bootcamp program. So our Lean Manufacturing Skills Bootcamp, and we'll give you a bit more information. There's some QR codes coming up. It's free, and it's a high impact tailored program to meet employer needs, and it will give people all the tools and techniques that they need to get into vacancies and into jobs. Some of the careers and the jobs that we've got, and just to give a brief overview of what we deliver, follows. So our program is for 10 weeks. It's 10 hours a week of learning, and it involves online workshops. There will be some practical applications when it's useful in some of the areas that we work in. It covers a number of the lean principles. I won't read all of these out because this is on a QR code, but it gives people a wide range of skills that will help in all sorts of sectors. And it moves us into a career route there where we're not just looking to give people a qualification, it's to give people a job. And very often those people might turn into being a manufacturing operative, contributing to continuous improvement in the workplace, and looking at waste reduction, but also might be able to use those techniques in other industries like the food industry, like logistics, like going into NDT. It's a really good entry-level qualification. And that could lead to progression routes as lean coordinators, team leaders, production line operatives, assembly testing technicians, and non-destructive testing. I think somebody mentioned metallurgical engineering. There's all sorts of opportunities with really well-paid jobs for people that can go into. And really, if we can tap into the talents of people that need that opportunity and can learn these techniques, they've got an opportunity to having a career that will last them a lifetime. And hopefully with the great partnerships that we're building up through the Multi-Alliance Awards with a lot of the employers that we talked about earlier, and some of the contacts that Lavenders have got, we'll be able to give a real opportunity for all of the learners on our bootcamp programs. What I wanted to try and do now is just pass you over to Martin, who's going to talk about connecting business, and also give you details, because there's a few people I haven't named, but Claire Whittingham, who's running our program, was sharing the details, and she's the head of our bootcamp delivery. There's a few people that we can use to work with anybody in the industry to move things forward. So can I pass over now to yourself then, Martin?
Yeah, more than welcome to, Steve. I will get you to move through the slides. I'll do my best. I think Chris Whitty to say next slide, please, anyway. But yeah, essentially what we're doing with obviously the skills boot camps is connecting with talent without the hefty price tag. We leverage those sort of government funded opportunities. So we're engaging with these individuals, we're supporting these individuals to sort of push them through. You can work with us on this. Steve, if I can have the next slide, please. To do this, you can scan the QR code that will appear on the screen in just a moment. I'll get the next slide up. Here we go. So by scanning the QR code, we can support your organisation. Now, the thing is with the Skills Bootcamp, we are engaging with individuals that have expressed interests. They may be already have experience within manufacturing. They may be new to manufacturing, but we're providing the skills sets that Steve has just sort of gone through in terms of lean manufacturing. Is providing these skill sets to the individuals, essentially then giving you access to a pool of talent, really, which can obviously save time and cost from yourselves. It can also be used to support individuals to upskill within the workforce. So we were having a discussion before with Sam, obviously, is it best to have people within the organisation or external? What if you can continually develop your team? We can share and share those best practices with those. And those for individuals that have expressed interest in boot camps and are thinking, is this the right route for me? For ourselves, it's all about those careers. You know, we're focusing very much on sort of manufacturing, going to the industry. As Steve has already alluded to, it isn't just a matter of only, sort of hands-on within manufacturing. These lean manufacturing principles do go across into a number of other sort of job roles and industries, and it really does help. So what we are doing is connecting individuals with those career opportunities, connecting you with employers. And again, by scanning the QR code, you too can also get started with skills boot camps. So this one is for those individuals that are looking to upskill and develop through. We will send these slides out to everybody as well, and you also have access to the links. I know some of the links are also being shared in the chat. And Steve, if we can have our last slide then to end on, and we'll allow everyone to sort of carry on with their morning, is if you require any further information, Claire Whittingham is our head of skills bootcamp. She's working with a team of individuals, so not only our curriculum, our lean manufacturing sort of experts, but obviously when it comes to business development, those relationships, and also our learner engagement as well. You can call us directly on 0800 955 0870 or by using the QR codes. Because you've registered today and you've attended, you will also have access to all the recordings. So you can jump through to any of those QR codes, but those links are being shared in the chat at this moment in time as well. So for myself, I thank you for your time and your questions as we've gone through. It's been sort of for myself, it is one of those sort of discovery opportunities of learning more about, what NDT is and the impact that it has, and also Bentley Motors, what those opportunities are. And Steve, I'd like to thank your time. I know we've got to know each other much better over the last 6 months and really developing my understanding of lean manufacturing, those principles. Really, it's us looking at how do we essentially improve what we're doing? How do we become leaner, more agile, slicker with our operations? And sometimes it's thinking about what we are doing. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I think we might have some sunshine on our way, so it's always a good way to end anyway. So thank you very much, everybody.